May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and for many of us, taking the time for ourselves can be really difficult. Fortunately, we have an expert to help us all stop and smell the roses, one of my favorite things to do when I need to feel grounded. Join us now as Sport Psychologist, professor, and entrepreneur. Please welcome to DBL, Dr. Breigh Jones-Coplin.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Doc, let's jump right in. We were talking about Scottie Scheffler, the golfer, right? He got arrested. Does the pressure to be the best make situations like this more common for athletes, or am I making excuses?
I don't think y'all are making excuses at all. I mean, think about it, right? Any mistake that you make in your everyday life, you don't have to worry about being under a microscope and that being, paraded around America or, internationally. And so I think, a lot of athletes, they have the pressure to show up, always be on, always make sure they're doing all the right things. And as a human being, we know that's not sustainable, right? So there's always a disconnect there. And I think y'all's conversation about the, when do we treat athletes who are the best like human beings? And then when do we treat them like they're the best in the world? There's always this conversation about, how much leeway do we give the best in the world, right? How much privilege do they have? Can they exercise? And then when do we give them the empathy to know that they are humans just like us, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's that what you're saying is fascinating. It just made me think, when we do see an athlete that we've put on that pedestal behave a certain way, maybe be rude to a waiter or staff, caught on camera, we're like, how dare they speak to them? It's like, well, we gave them the power and we tell them they're great every day. Yeah. And then when they act like that, we're like, I can't believe it. But that was just really interesting. Anyway, I got to ask you, because I'm curious, how did sports lead you to psychology?
Yeah, so I was a high-performing track athlete in college. I ran at Austin Peay State University.
Shout out.
Shout out. I'm in the Hall of Fame there.
Yes. I would have that on a T-shirt. Right. Everywhere I went.
Should be on the Chiron.
Yes, I'd be like, are you in the Hall of Fame? Because I am. Okay.
But towards the end of my season, I had a career-ending injury. I was supposed to go to Rio Olympics that year, and it did not work out for me. And of course, if y'all can imagine, it was just very detrimental to me and my mental health. And so at the time, I was majoring in psychology, and so I was like, okay, what's my next step? What am I going to do? And I was taking a class, and they were like, if you were to go to grad school, what would you go to grad school in? And I discovered sports psychology in that moment. Never seen a psychologist or a therapist in my life. Of course, I come from Memphis, Tennessee. We don't believe in going to therapy sometimes in my family, but we're working on it. And so, at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm struggling with a career-ending injury, majoring in psychology. How can I merge these two worlds? And that's what kind of birthed my passion for sports psych. So, ended up in Denver from there.
Cool. Brilliant.
Love that. I mean, first of all, Dr. Breigh, I really appreciate you bringing that to the forefront, talking about being from Memphis, a black family. When I was growing up and I had mental health issues, I remember very clearly being told that therapy was for white people.
Yes.
And so, that's a conversation that we need to, unlock the stigma that we were raised that way. Absolutely. And it's up to us to, create a new future. But let's talk about talking about our own mental health, because recently we talked on the show about focusing on our own mental health and how it can have maybe a negative effect, and it could lead to self-diagnosis, like things like ADHD. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I see that a lot in the college age because it's TikTok diagnosis, right? When everyone talks about the symptoms that they have and they're like, well, I have that. I don't think it's necessarily negative, because people are at least gaining insight that they might have something that's worth exploring. So I think that's always a good deal, right? When people are having more awareness about, maybe I am operating in a way that's in a deficit, right? Or in a way where I can't function in the ways that I want to. So it might be wrong, it might not be on the mark, but that's why hopefully, there are competent professionals out there giving education about what the actual diagnoses are. So when people come to me and they're like, I have ADHD, I'm like, well, I can give you a formal ADHD evaluation and be able to tell you if this is something that you're struggling with or not. So I don't think there's anything wrong with people self-diagnosing, unless they stop there, right? If they're like, okay, I have ADHD, I know that, and they don't get any type of professional help. I think if you are self-diagnosing and you see yourself in some of those diagnoses, go further and reach out for professional help so that someone can confirm and then give you the resources so you can heal and be better.
Well said. We got to talk about all the hats you wear. So one of them, really cool. I just complimented your floral arrangement. I didn't even know it was yours. I was like, who made this? It's fantastic. So you started your own floral company, Black and Blossom. during the pandemic as both a business and a tool for therapy. So talk to us about how this can be helpful to our mental health.
Yeah. I mean, did y'all see everyone when we walked through with flowers, what the reactions were? And that's on the surface level, right? Everyone's like, flowers, oh my God. But it's just this surface level excitement. You see something beautiful and you want to touch it and you want to smell it. So it takes you away from just the hustle and bustle of life and, you know, being so self-critical. Like when you're around flowers, you just kind of have to soften a little bit. And so taking that a step further, though, like with floral design specifically, I've used it with some of my trauma clients. I've used it with some of my athletes where this is a mindfulness exercise, right? So, you know, you take a flower and we look at flowers and we see them every day, but we don't really like take it all in. So like, how does it feel? How does it smell? How does it taste if you taste, you know, a non-toxic flower? You know, so grounding yourself in your 5 senses to where it can get you more present, moment focused, get you out of your head and more kind of in your body is somatic healing, right? Our ancestors engaged in somatic healing. So it's kind of just bringing some of those like very simple therapeutic techniques back.
Beautiful, Breigh. Beautiful. Thank you to Breigh, DBL Nation. See everything Dr. Breigh is working on now at Black and Blossomed on Instagram and at blackandblossomed.co. Thank you again.
I had those at my live podcast.
I know that's true.
Black and Blossomed made it more beautiful.
Yeah, Erica was like, hey, I know this. Thank you again. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.